Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. This is really great, and I hope that you get out a lot from me today. So my name is Lori Savino. I am a agent with Corcoran, and I sell both New York and New Jersey. I'm also an Exactly What to Say guide. How many of you have read the book or listened to it on Audible? Put it in the chat if you have. And there's also two books. There's one that is Exactly What to Say, and there's another one. I see said both. Jill says both, which is Exactly What to Say for real estate agents. So definitely put that on your list today. Make sure that you have in front of you a notebook or a pad because there's going to be a lot of great information. And when you finish the webinar today, you'll be able to download the book because I listen to it all the time. Phil is great. Has a wonderful English accent, so it's like fun to listen to. But there's so much valuable information. So part of this buyer experience we're going today, I'm going to do a little bit of exactly what to say so that you guys can really get to know what the book is about. It started as a little book and became a movement. It is just something that really helps you in your conversations, not only with the conversations that you have with your potential buyers or sellers, but with like your friends, your family, your partner. It really helps to communication and sort of takes the heat out of an argument, per se, to really kind of sit down and talk. So I'm excited for you guys to see that today. Okay. All right. What are we going to learn today? So value proposition. What is a value proposition? We're going to go over that today. We're also going to talk about the trust triangle, which is sort of like a key for communication, the buyer's commitment, because not only are we committing to the buyer, but the buyer has to commit to us, right? The decoupling of commission, we want to make sure that there's a mutual beneficial relationship, or you don't take them on as a client. So remember, you don't have to take every client on, especially if you're not getting paid. And no one is asking you not to get paid, which is really important. Using the magic phrases, there's 32 magic phrases in the book. So we're going to go over a couple of them today. The home buying experience, what that is, looks like to your client, and the buyer's guide, because all of you should have a seller's guide and a buyer's guide. So I'm going to show you mine and we'll be able to go through. So hopefully you'll have a lot of great ideas and come from there. Okay, what is a value proposition, right? So it's a clear statement that explains how real estate agent service solves buyers' problems or improves their situation, which is like the relevancy, right? Delivers specific benefits, qualified value, and tells the ideal buyer what they should choose, why they should choose you over the competition. So you should all have a value proposition. It's similar to sort of an elevator pitch, but what this is, it goes a little deeper. So I want you to write down on the piece of paper right now, what do you think that you bring to the table with your buyers? Because we're all different. We all do our work in the real estate differently. We have different experiences. So write down, let's start this on the top, value proposition. Put down what you bring to the table. And if anyone wants to add it to the chat, that would be great. Put a volume. Someone says they can't hear me. So hold on. Let me get a little closer and hopefully that helps. Okay. So does anybody want to write it on the chat? What is that value proposition for you? What do you bring to the table? And you can even unmute yourself and say it as well. Okay, well, let's go to the next screen. All right, so why is it crucial for real estate agents? Why do you think, oh wait, so Susan says years of experience in different economic climates. So Susan, you've probably been in real estate a long time, right? How many years? If you don't mind like sharing. And then Tina says home improvement experience, great in negotiations. 30, Susan, see, like, so Susan brings a lot of value. And I don't want someone to think, oh, I've only been in real estate for 2 years and you don't have that same value. But what Susan brings is going to be different. So she's going to really be able to talk what was through experience. And what you guys can do is, even if you're in the real estate for 2 years, you can bring a lot of experience as well. in what's going on in the market. And by coming here to these kind of webinars, I'm really learning to use the right language. So I love that. Thank you, Susan. And Issa's bilingual, which is huge, right? Speaking another language, that's a huge value that you can bring to the table. So definitely want to put that in your value proposition. Okay, so it's in a competitive market, your value proposition is the key differentiator. It's not just about selling homes. It's about selling your unique approach to make the home buying process seamless, enjoyable, and successful for your buyers. So start to write down and dig deep a little bit on this value proposition. What makes you different? What unique approach can you bring when you're talking to your buyers? Now, there's a lot of information that we'll be going over today, and with the decoupling of commissions and talking points, and be able to have this conversation. And I know that it's difficult. And so tell me in the chat, what do you find is the most difficult thing getting a buyer's agreement signed? What part of it? Is it just the signature? Is it explaining it to them? Do you need more talking points in terms of how you're presenting the decoupling of commission? If anybody has want to share, and again, you can unmute yourself or just put it in the chat. So I think for me, and really why you guys are all here today, one thing that I've really put together that I'm going to share with you in a minute is really that buyer experience and how I sit down and what I actually prepare for them before they even have that signature, right? Because you want to show your value, which is really, really important. So part of exactly what to say, there are 4 cornerstones of conversational excellence. Yes, Kimberly, unfortunately it is. I don't know why it's so low, so I do apologize. I will get, again, I'll try to get closer if that helps at all. Does that help at all? I do apologize. I don't know why the volume is so low. I don't know if there's anything to kind of change now. So the 4 cornerstones, and this is really important in terms of your conversation, is the worst time to think about the thing you are saying is in the moment you are saying it, which is why you're all here. You have to prepare for these conversations. What are the critical conversations that you have in your business and in your life every single day? So is it with your buyers? Is it with your sellers, right? If you're a team lead, is it with the agents that are underneath you? Is it like your family, your friends? Think about this. So prepare these conversations and the tips that you're going to learn today. Curiosity is the fuel for great conversations. And this is really what we're going to talk about a lot today, is getting really, really curious about your clients and really stepping back and finding out about them and not so much about you, which I know we do all the time, right? So the person asking the questions controls the conversation. The more questions that you ask to your buyers and your sellers, you'll find out more about them. And that's something that's really important, to find out their motivation. Because I think as real estate agents, what we do is we think we know what they want. We think that what their motivation is, and we really don't. So you have to kind of step back and listen, really listen, not listen to respond, really listen to what they're saying, because this is going to be the key to your success in both for your sellers and for your buyers. So, maybe saying on the microphone. Okay, we'll check that in a minute. All right, people do things for their own reason and not yours. And that's really, really important to know at this point, because you kind of, again, you think about things, and we're in real estate a long time, whether in there 2 years or 10 years or 30 years, like Susan, it's something that we just can't assume. We have to make sure that we understand what their reasons are so that we can help them, and we're not going to be able to help them without that. So it's really, really important. Okay, so this is going to be the trust triangle. There's 3 key ingredients to make sure that you're having a successful conversation. So on your piece of paper, just draw a triangle just like you see now. And the one thing I'm going to tell you, which you've already started, is get really, 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 I can't say enough, curious about your client. ask the questions that are so important. The more curious you get, the more context you're going to get, right? So what do you think it creates? That curiosity. Put it in the chat. What do you think if you got really curious with your clients, what would happen? And hopefully everybody is hearing me. But that curiosity, really, really, when you get that context, what happens is you get certainty, right? So when you get curious about someone, you ask them the questions, then you're going to get certainty for what those reasons are. And the reasons are so important for you to move forward, right? So ask the question, get really curious. You should all have a buyer sheet with tons of questions on it. So one of the first things that I want you to do when you're meeting a new buyer is making sure that you're doing a Zoom call. It's really important. If you can't meet them in person in the office, it's a Zoom call, right? You don't want to meet that buyer in front of the property. How many times we get this lead and we call, okay, they want to see 123 Main Street, and we run, right? We don't want to do that anymore. We want to have a Zoom call. You set up a Zoom call. If the buyer doesn't want to do a Zoom call, then maybe that's not the right client for you. That's not the client that's going to pay you a commission to work with them. So set up that Zoom call. Make sure that you have, let's hear some of the questions. Yeah. Oh, yes. So when I talk to a buyer, Kimberly, it's really about who they are, how long have they been looking, because you don't know if they have an agent. And if some of the questions coming forward, where I'm going to tell you and kind of share that with you what my list of questions are and how to get that certainty, because you want to sort of backtrack and you want to ask them about what their experience is with looking for a home, because sometimes they start like a year ahead. They just saw something. They also do like they've spoken to their mom or their dad or their cousin, so they have this thought in their mind. So we're going to get to that in a few minutes. So from that certainty, what it's empathy. So once you can get curious, you're asking these questions and you have the certainty. Now it becomes, they feel like, oh, my agent understands me. They get it. They've spent the time asking me these really difficult questions, so that now I'm like, okay, I think this is somebody that I want to work with, because it's really important to get that empathy. If you don't get it, and then it's really hard. And from empathy, you get relatability. That's so important. This is why you want to ask those questions. You want to make sure that you're creating that empathy. You have relatability. And that's what we need when we're working with clients, especially when we're asking to get paid, because we have to make sure that we have taken the time to understand who they are. And what happens, you get courageous, because at that point you can ask those questions, the really difficult ones, because you've spent that time to really, really get to know them, which is really, really something that's really important. So from there, you can take action. So remember, anything you want to write down on that page, curious, ask questions, figure out what that buyer sheet's going to say, so that when you're again, you're not winging it, right? We need to plan this, right? Be able to create this with someone, get that Zoom call, make sure that all the parties are there. This is like step one, and really making sure that we're starting this relationship really well. So it's the Zoom call, and most of it, it's going to be about them. You're going to control by asking the questions, but they're going to do most of the talking. Then you can talk about yourself, and we'll talk about that again in a bit. So here's our first one. Kimberly, you like this? What do you understand? This is such a powerful question, because then you're going to sort of just step back and listen. What do you understand about the home buying process? Really, really important, right? What do you understand? Because sometimes they have this, maybe it's $1 million listing they've watched, right? Or maybe it's a friend, right? A family member. People are always trying to give you their opinion and telling you what to do. So when you fully understand, what do you understand about the home buying process, this is a great question to start with. Because at that point, they continue, oh, last year I went to an open house, or I was working with this agent, but then I stopped. And now you know, do they have an agent, right? What's going on? You need all of that background. You need to create that context so that you can get the relatability to be able to do this. So what do you understand? And a lot of these phrases with exactly what to say, I really try to use them all day in all different scenarios, because when I say to someone, what do you understand? Sort of displays, any kind of like fight there may not be, or something that I'm trying to get my point across. I'll just say, like, what do you understand about the home buying process? What do you understand about selling your home with a professional real estate agent, right? So these are the things that you want to do. Okay. Another one that I couple with this is, what is your experience, right? So what is your experience in the home buying process, which is different than what you understand, right? Because what they understand could just be textbook kind of stuff, watching shows, talking to people. Have they had any experience with a real estate agent, going to open houses? Maybe they have purchased something before. And I'll give you a great story. I was sitting down with a seller and we were going through all the disclosures, and we were going to the next one was agency. And he said to me, he goes, who do you work for? And it was I stopped for a second and said, okay, why are you asking me that? And he had experience, but he didn't tell me when we were talking. This was the second home that he owned. The first one, he didn't realize that the agent, right, because he went direct, was working for the seller and not working for him. And there was a lot of things going on there. So now I understand he's nervous, right? So when we talk, I said, okay, I don't ever have to have a buyer and you. So I can give it to, right, dual agency, I can give it to another agent, right? So, and I have to tell you, a lot of times don't do a direct deal. I just feel like, they talk about you can't serve two masters, can't have two wives, right? Really, really hard to be fair with both of them, right? Because your fiduciary responsibility is with that seller. So you want to find out, if I didn't know that, I would not have ever gone to what would have happened if we went down the line, right? And then a buyer came in and then he might have been upset. So that's why these questions are so important to find out. Like, what is your experience? That's exactly what I said to him. Wait a minute, what's your experience with this? I knew there was a story. So this is such a great question to find out, because it gives you that level and goes in a little deeper, which is really good. Then, how important it is to you. So this is a really great question, because you can find out the seriousness of them. Like, how important is it to you that you're in a house in 6 months, right? How important is it to you that you're working with a professional real estate agent, right? How important is it to you that you understand the buying process from A to Z? Oh, yes, I do. I really, it's important to me. I really want to know what's going on. I want to work with someone who I feel comfortable with, who I know that, right, exactly. So you have what, right? What do you understand? Then you talk about their experience. And how important is it? Because now you can figure this out. And all these questions is not, what type of house are you? Are you looking for 3 bedroom, but 2 bedroom? That's great. And that's sort of, to me, a little, oh, it's fluff, right? This is the important stuff. You're getting to know this client, right? So now by the time we're going through and I need that signature, now we've already bonded, because I already know what their motivation is, what their timeline is, right? What is important. And so it's like, how important is it to you? And then you can kind of say, what is important to you in this situation, right? And then sometimes from this, you can find out that they're a seller. Because sometimes they don't tell you that right away, right? So then you can find out what's going on. So these 3 questions, this is only right at this point, 30 out of the 32 magic phrases are really important. So if in the chat, which one do you like the best? Which one will you use today? I know I do, like, help me to understand is a really good one. How important is it to you is really a good one. Does anybody want to share? I love it. Great. Thanks, Jackie. It really, really is good. Right. What do you understand? What you understand is just such a powerful, powerful question, because at that point, you really are getting to understand. So great. Love it. All right. Now we're getting into the meat, because I know this is really what you wanted to see. This is my home buying experience. This is now this is different than a buyer guide. This is not a buyer guide. I do not give my buyer guide until I have a commitment from them. And if you see here, the first one is our partnership commitment, right? This is what I'm asking the buyer to commit to me, right? Because again, it's not all about what we give to them. It has to be a partnership, especially with when it comes in terms of the commission, right? So when we talk about, here's just a few one like exclusive collaboration, it's really working together to get you to the end result, which is getting to you into a new home, right? Another one is mutual respect and for time and effort. How many times have you made appointments all day, right? You're trying, right? Isn't it like a puzzle, right? Like if this person says, no, we're trying to put this time in, and then they cancel. I'll give you a great story. I was like driving 45 minutes away. I had 5 houses. And all of a sudden I get a text, not even a phone call, from this buyer that says, I'm canceling. I'm sorry, I can't go. And now I'm desperately trying to call her. She's not picking up. So now I have to pull over on the highway to cancel, right? All those appointments because you can get a fine on MLS if you don't cancel them. Plus it's time, right? I don't want these agents showing up. To find out that a friend of hers took her to see her house because a house because she knew the agent. And the agent, and she liked the house, right? And how many times did they buy the first house, right? Said, oh, cancel your appointment. Can I tell you what happened? She never even got that house. So who was that agent working for, right? She was representing the seller. So she wasn't representing that buyer. And now that buyer did not have a great experience. So in this agreement and commitment to each other. You're going to say, it takes me time and effort to make sure that I'm looking for houses for you. I'm setting up appointments for you. So what I'm asking of you is that you don't cancel in the last minute. I understand things will come up, but explain to them. So as you're going through each one of these, then at the end of it, right, they understand what it is that you do. Because I think what happens is we go too far into just selling without explaining. You have to take the time to step back, find out about your clients, making sure you're talking about what you do, what you are going to do for them for the next couple of months while we're going through this search. So that partnership commitment is really, really important. This is something that's key. The next thing is it's going to be the exclusive home buying experience. There's 7 sections to this. And this is sort of, I know a lot of people here are from Tom Ferry and Elite Retreat. And they were talking about like the 90 things that we do for a buyer. And I actually went through it and took out a lot of the fluff because I feel like the fluff is not what a buyer really wants to hear. So I kind of really brought it down to be able to say, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do for you. And we're going to go through them so that they understand the home buying process, what experience it's going to be like working with me, which is really, really important. So this is a great packet that I think that you should make. I think about on the piece of paper now, take 30 seconds, write down just some things that maybe came to your mind right away. What experience do you want to create with this buyer? What are you going to ask them to commit to you to make sure that you have a really good partnership and that you're going to make sure that you are getting that, the signature, we're getting to the closing table, they're not going to work with another agent. So these things are really important. So take that moment. Okay, buyer talking points. This is really, really important because after this, right, now you have the partnership. You've explained what you're going to bring to the table. You've explained what they're going to give to you. Now it's time for the serious stuff, right? All of you should have from your brokers some sort of exclusive agency agreement. This one is the one that I have with Cochrane. And these are my buyer talking points. And I keep this out. The buyer talking points is mine. It's not in the packet. It's just in front of me because don't feel like you can't look and read, right? Because you want to be able to explain this. You have to be able to get really comfortable understanding the lawsuits, right? What's going on and how the buyer needs to pay you now. Now, in my agreement, and I feel like in a lot of the offers you can do this, it actually says that we're going to go after the seller for the commission first. We're going to put it in the offer, right? So we're going to try. If at that point it's not, you will pay me X amount of commission. I'm not going to talk about percentage because it's against realtor policy. But put down what you want to, do you want to be paid 1%, 1.5%, 2%? What do you want to be paid? What are you worth, right? So once we do this, and you're able to talk with the buyer talking points. This is something now they have a reason to sign this. You cannot start with someone and say, by the way, you need to pay me now. These are the reasons why. You have to make sure that you're talking and giving them all your value. What is your value proposition, right? What is the commitment between you and the buyer? What is the buyer committing to you? And then we're going to have exactly all the 75 things I'm going to do for you over the next couple of months that they don't understand the process and they don't understand why they need us, right? So this is the reason that you want to do this. You're going to get the signature. This is going to help you to get that signature. Then we're going to talk about an actual buyer's guide that's going to give them their Bible of what they need, which is also really important. Do you find this helpful? Right in the chat. Do you think that you could create something like this to sit down with your buyers? Do you think this is helpful? Yes. Okay. Jackie said, yeah, great. Take the time to really, really prepare this packet. Yeah. Great. Okay. Let's go to the next one. All right. Let's talk about the buyer experience because I've been in luxury sales my whole life. I used to be in the wedding industry, to buyer for clientele, you know, $20,000, $30,000 gowns. I sell luxury homes now. um, I want you to think about a time where you had an unbelievable experience. It could have been buying a shirt, pair of shoes, something expensive as a couch, piece of art. What did that feel like to you? Right. So I can tell you, I had to go buy a gift at Cartier, and it was a small gift. I wasn't spending a lot of money, and they sat me down at the desk. The guy had white gloves. Right? Do you want coffee? Do you want water? The receipt was handed to me like this. It was packaged beautifully. That I walked out and I actually felt like I bought a $10,000 piece of jewelry. And I still remember that this experience happened about 7 years ago. I always remember that. And this is something that I think we forget in real estate, that that buyer experience should be special. So in order to do that, right, think about this and write this down on a piece of paper. Who am I? Like, who are you in terms of a salesperson, right? What do you do? What is it, all these 75 things that you do, and how do you do it? Because the how do I do it is the most important part of this, because that's what you're going to create. You need to create this unbelievable buyer experience. And I think that we lose sight of that sometimes because of the struggle and showing houses and going through this. It should be really fun. You know, I had created something, I have a seller box that I created. Create something for the buyer, maybe like a little packet with water and popcorn. Like if you're going out, you put your buyer's guide in it. Make it fun, make it memorable. And again, it doesn't have to be about money. It just has to be about that special feeling and that they have. Maybe they'll bring that bag every time that they go out, right? Because you know, snacks and things. How long is it when we're looking at a lot of houses all day? So think about, what is it? What do you think this does? Right? Let's go back to that value statement, right? So here's an example. So when you're really thinking about these three things, right? As a dedicated real estate agent with over a decade of experience in New York luxury market, I leverage my extensive network and insider knowledge to find my buyers the perfect home at the best price. My clients enjoy a personalized, hassle-free buying experience with exclusive access to off-market listings, ensuring they make a smart investment that feels like home. All right, this is a great value statement. What is your value statement going to look like? And I give you another great story, like the relationships that we have with each other. I was working with an agent and we were looking for a couple for an apartment, and they were a relocation client. So they were getting everything paid for, but we were running against the clock. And an agent called the person that I was working with and said, "Hey, I'm putting an apartment on in the market. Can you help me price it? What do you think?" She's like, "Wait, I have the perfect client for you." So we ended up doing a deal that never hit the market. We wouldn't have done that without that relationship. So really talking about the relationships that we have with agents is so important, because that gets you an off-market deal. That's why you want to work with an agent instead of trying to do this all by yourself. So that's really important. I think we do that. So, okay, what happens next? This is great. Now, there's an art to selling. There's also an art to closing. How are you going to get that signature? Sometimes it's just as easy, even for a seller and a buyer, is what happens next? Well, what happens next is we're going to sign this agreement. I'll sign it first, you'll sign it, we'll write this out. Just explain to them what happens next is we're going to be getting the seller's agreement and go through it and get a signature. Sometimes they just don't know what the next step is. And you're leaving all that money on the table because you're thinking they're going to say, "Oh, yeah, great, let's sign." But you have to ask. So I have something for you guys as well. So I know this is a lot, and it's a lot to put together. So I actually created a course that I'm going to go through all of this. So I'm going to help you to craft your value proposition. I'm going to create the buyer's commitment with you. This is going to be an interactive workshop. This is not going to be like me just talking. We're going to have to make sure that you leave with the perfect buyer's guide. And then we're going to do some exactly more of the exactly what to say magic words. And I'm going to add that in. I'm giving you guys a $50 off buyers. You just put in the code buyer24 for $50 off for coming to this webinar today. But again, you're going to leave with something so valuable. I'm also adding help with my graphic artist. Depending on how much help you need putting it together for it to look really good, some of it may be free, some of it might have to be a small upcharge, but I know how hard it is to find a graphic artist. And my graphic artist at mine, she's great. And this is what I'm going to help you. But you're going to be armed with going out there. It's going to be 4 weeks, about an hour and a half, depending on how long you guys want it, because I'm committed to making sure that this buyer's experience and you guys are making a lot of money. And that's really one of the most important things. So that QR code goes to the course to purchase. And then I have a QR code later if you want to just like ask me questions and you're not sure about whether you want to do the course, because I'll still continue to do free content for you guys as well. But I just really wanted to design something that would help you to really create this packet, because I really, really feel, positive about it. Okay. Objections. What objections do you think that you're going to get? Can we write that in the chat and getting that signature? Do you think it's going to be like, obviously, like money? What other objections do you think that you're going to get? Maybe exclusivity. I don't really want to work with one agent, right? So there's a lot of objections and you have to be able to handle these, right? They will want to take the agreement home to review before signing on the spot. Right. So, Kimberly, if you really have shown all the value, which is what you want to do, they might not want to have to do that, right? Because we want to make sure another really good what to say phrase is enough. Do you have enough information to sign today? Right? Because then you can find out and take that temperature and figure it out. Because asking that, they're not quite ready yet. Exactly. So he said, so, and find out why I'm not ready yet. Okay. How so? Help me to understand why you are not ready today. Because you really want to get that clarity, right? In that context, go back to the questions. It doesn't mean just because you ask them in the beginning, you can't ask them again, right? Because that's what you really want to do. You want to make sure that you're finding out. Help me to understand. I love this. Help me understand, right? So again, help me understand why you're not comfortable signing today, right? This is what we want to find. Again, it's really just kind of calming down to help you understand, because then you can get that context. How certain are you? This is also a great one. So how certain are you that you don't want to work with a professional real estate agent, right? And another thing you can say to someone, so you say, well, you have to realize that the seller is being represented. How certain are you that you want to be unrepresented in that transaction? Because when they think, oh my goodness, they're not thinking about this, right? We all know everything that can go wrong, right? In a situation being unrepresented. So how certain are you that you want to be unrepresented in looking for a home? Because you want, if you're not showing the value, if you don't spend the time to have that kit, right, they're never going to be able to do this. Okay, let's talk about the buyer guide. The other thing I know you guys were here to do. I spent a lot of time on my buyer guide. That map is not just a map of here we start, middle, and end. It really took the time. I actually have several buyer's guides. So I have one if you're buying a house. I have one if you're buying a condo and a co-op, because they're different buyers and it's a different process, right? So you have to make sure that that process comes out. So don't do a broad. Actually come down and do one for your town. If you're in an area that does a lot of co-ops and condos like I do, right? So that's really important. And then we're talking about the home buying process. So once they're signing, this is the goal that you're giving them, right? And these are just a few pages of mine. And if you decide to do the course, we're going to create this for you. And I tell you, when I give this to my clients, they love it because they talk about things like building your green file. Like, what's a green file, right? Like, what does that mean, right? Being prepared and without having that pre-approval, how important it is that they are buyer that's armed and powerful, right? So I'm going to teach you how to be a powerful buyer. I'm going to make sure that your offer stands out with everybody else, right? Because I use things like I use High Note, if anyone knows what High Note is, right? So I explain to them what I do, and that's why you want to sign with me and not any other agent, right? I don't talk about the bad, I just talk about the good, right? This is all the value that I bring. So this is the map I spent a lot of time on closing costs. I don't think that we spend enough time about talking about closing costs. And sometimes we talk about down payment, but they don't, sometimes that's all the money they have. So if you haven't taken the time to make sure that you've gone over the closing costs, you've made sure of that, and then this one has like for the seller and the purchaser. And I think it's really good to see for clients to understand what the closing costs are for both. And which is really important. And then the top 10 reasons to work with me, and I will give everybody that's here today this document for free. And then just again, like we say, rip off and repeat, put your logo, I'll send it to you without my logo. And it's important because this is like, why do you want to work with me? And we have to keep on telling them this. It's like, it's going to be in that packet, right? Before that's actually want to get that agreement. And now this is why you want to work with me. This is all this great stuff. And if you want, you can take that and you can put it in the first packet too. It's a great form that I've used. I've given this to a lot of agents and they love it. So again, develop your own, see what's going to do. So stop counting conversations, start making conversations count. This is the important part because we want to go through and through, take the time to make sure that you are doing a Zoom call, that you're preparing all these sheets, all these packets, which is really important to be able to do this. So thank you so much. This will just go to an inquiry. So if you want to just talk to me, I do coaching. If you want to talk about the course, if you have any questions, just this is just an inquiry. It doesn't go to anything. Beth is in the chat is going to put the two links, for both for you. So this way you can see it in case you didn't, take a picture with them on the course. And now it's sort of like exactly what to say, get the book, because it is unbelievable. We also do, Beth and I partner up a lot, and we do certifications. If you want to do a 2-day certification with your brokerage, with other agents, we can come to your office, we can do that as well. I'm being certified as a guide for this is just amazing. It just changes people's lives. An amazing 2 days. It's immersive. So there's a lot of different opportunity. If you want to just come to my free webinars, that's cool too. Just sign up. And every time I do a webinar, we do quite often. We have one coming up in 2 weeks. So join, which is really great. So I'm going to stop sharing and tell me any kind of questions that you guys have. And you can unmute yourself. Does anybody have any questions? Did you find this valuable? I would love to know in the chat if you found this valuable.
Yeah, I really like this. I thought it was very valuable. I had a question. You said you do like the 2-day immersive classes. Do you do those over Zoom or do you always travel to do those?
They're in person because they're so powerful. There's a workbook. It's great. Like we have lunch and you want to be able to really sort of shut off, not be on your phone, not do that. And it is something that is just amazing. It's done either in our headquarters in New York or I can travel to your brokerage.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody have any other questions? Great, Andrew. Thank you for that. Yeah, exactly. Really take the time to just step back and look at what you offer. Create that unbelievable buyer's experience. That's what's going to get you that signature. So thank you again so much. If there's not any other questions, I think we can sign off. The recordings I will send to everybody. The top 10 I will send to everybody. So you have that. I'm also going to send a just a little survey. Would love if you would take a few minutes to fill that out. That would be great. So thank you so much and enjoy the day.